So, got it. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Mike Rustacy. I am the co-membership chair of EO Nashville this year. My partner in crime, Ginger, is on with us as well, but you should know that we're not the people who actually get things done. Samira and Karen, who it seems like many of you are already familiar with, they're the real ones to go to when you want stuff to get done. They're part of our chapter management who just do a fantastic job keeping us on track. And one of the key ingredients to, I think, EO Nashville's success is that we're actually professionally run by a dedicated team. We're not just a bunch of volunteers who make this, our last priority. This is a well-run organization, unlike a lot of the membership organizations I've been a part of, where things actually get done and get done really well and really efficiently. But anyway, as you can see on the first slide over here, one of our key values with EO is trust and respect. And one of the ways we try to show respect is by staying on time and not wasting anybody's time, because one thing I can guarantee you is that nobody on this call has extra time to go with. So I'm going to kind of take you through a little bit of the introduction to what EO is. And then Ginger is going to dive in and tell a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of kind of how EO works, what it has to offer, benefits, what we do day to day, all of those kind of things. And then we'll come back a little bit at the end and do what we call a mock forum exercise, really kind of show you what EO is all about at its core, which is forum, which we'll hear a little bit more about in a few minutes over here. So I'm going to start rewinding about 30 years and with a story of where EO came from. So I can't remember the year, 1980 something. Four entrepreneurs go out to dinner, and they're talking about their vacation and the new cars they bought and how well their kids are doing at school and sports and the new house, and they're having steak and wine and dessert, yada yada yada. You guys have all been at that dinner. Really good time had by all. And when the check comes, one of the guys just absolutely insists on picking up the check. Well, the next day, the other three get a call from that man's widow, because he was sitting at that dinner thinking about all of the problems that he had, all of the things that were wrong with his business that he didn't think he could solve, that he didn't know how he was going to get out from under, and seeing everybody around him, everybody else had it all put together, and he didn't think he had a way forward. So the other three start to work with the widow to untangle his affairs, help her sort out the mess that was left behind. And they start to realize, hey, I had this problem a few years ago, and here's how I was able to solve it. Or, hey, I know just the guy to help this person with this issue. Or if you just tweak these couple other things, I see how he could have dug himself out of this. And they realized that there was a lot of experience to share. They realized this person had a path, but he didn't see it, because everybody was so focused with being what we would call today Facebook perfect. Because we don't talk about the things that are hard, that are going wrong. We're always so focused on what's going well, presenting ourselves in the best light. And so they decided that instead of getting together for dinner, they were going to start getting together and being very real, sharing their experiences, talking about their problems, helping each other out, being there to support each other. And today we have EO. EO is essentially a group in Nashville. We have about 300 members, all of whom have built a business on their own that does at least $1 million in revenue or more, who all have something to offer, who come together to share, to learn, and to grow together. I don't know about you, but in my life, outside of EO, I don't have many people, if anybody, I can talk to about the challenges I face as an entrepreneur. Who in your life knows what it's like to not be sure if you're going to be able to make payroll next week, and to have dozens of families dependent on that check that's coming from you? Who do you talk to when you have to fire somebody who's going to be a best friend, or when one of your employees does something maybe illegal that you might be on the hook for? How do you deal with that? Or conversely, who do you talk to when your product takes off and all of a sudden you have $1 million in free cash just sitting there and don't know what to do with it? Great problem to have, but still a problem nevertheless if you've never dealt with it before. Who in your life can understand that and relate to that, has been there and talk to you about that? Or if you've got a chance to sell your company for $20 million, but you think if you hold out a couple of years, you can get 40, who do you talk to about that? That's what EO is. Entrepreneurship is a lonely, hard profession that's pretty unique, with its own unique set of challenges that not a lot of people can relate to. EO is where you can come to learn, to grow, to share, and to cry if you need to. We're all here supporting each other, all here to grow, all here to make each other the best version of ourselves that we can, and not just as entrepreneurs, but as humans. Entrepreneurship can take over a life, and it's just as important to be taking care of ourselves and our families as it is our businesses. And so in EO, we take a comprehensive look at you as a person, and are here to support you completely and wholly as a person, because you're never just one of those three things. So one of our other core values is something called Gestalt. Gestalt is a protocol we use to speak with each other in forums that says we don't tell you what to do. Each of us is in our own unique scenario, our own unique situation, has our own experiences, our own values. And for me to be able to tell you what to do on your path, on your journey, in this kind of utopia you've made for yourself and your business, that's kind of arrogant. For me to assume I'm smarter and know better than you, doesn't really work. Instead, what we do is we share experiences. If somebody has something they're trying to learn about or a problem they're trying to solve, I'm going to search my memory for my experiences that I've had that are similar. I'm going to tell you about what my problem was, how I approached thinking about that problem, what I did and what happened. And then hopefully you can learn from my experience, you can learn from the experiences of the crowd to make the best decision going forward for you. To that end, nobody on this call is going to tell you to join EO. That's your decision. We hope you do. We would love to welcome you into our group. We're very enthusiastic about it, but nobody can tell you if that's the right decision for you or not. Instead, we're going to try to share some experiences that we've had with EO, what EO has meant to us. This is a little bit different. Usually we're doing this in a room full of many people with other members. So Ginger and I will give us a few of our own specific examples here. But for me, EO has been kind of my tribe and my inspiration. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. For me, EO is the group that pulls me to be bold, to be innovative, to be creative, to think differently, to be bigger than I ever thought I could be, because that's the type of people I'm around every time I'm in a room with other EO members. To that end, when I first joined EO, I had a software business, just crossed the $1 million threshold, and I was in my 20s and making a pretty good living and kind of thought I was hot stuff. But then I sat down with some people who had businesses 10 times my size, 20 times my size. But most importantly, I met the founder of the software company in town that I idolized, the guy I wanted to be like, the company I wanted to be. And I realized that he was just like me, went to the same school, was no smarter or any different than me, but he was just out there doing it. And it made me realize that there's absolutely no reason I couldn't set my sights 10 times higher and accomplish that. Fast forward 14 years, and I've built and sold 2 different software companies for more than I ever imagined when I first got started. And I honestly owe so much of that to EO, just for that one shift in mindset of being around people who think big, who have big dreams, and who aren't afraid to go ahead and live them. So that's the high level overview of EO, what it is and why I joined, and why I still join. So I'm going to turn over to Ginger now. She's going to tell you a little bit more about how we put that into practice and what that looks like from day-to-day basis.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. So Mike did a really great job of kind of telling you the history and what it means to him. I'm going to get a little bit more into like, what do we actually do? And EO is not your basic business organization. I know that some other business organizations are kind of funded on sharing referrals, or founded on sharing referrals and networking. And EO is so much more than that. It is a group of vetted individuals that are part of a global organization. And as Mike mentioned, everybody has got revenues of at least $1 million. And it's just a place where you can truly feel safe. Samira, can you go to the next slide? I have it memorized now. So it is really our safe place. Like Mike said, there are things in this journey as an entrepreneur that are what we would call top 5%. Those things like, you know, you just made your first $1 million, you did something really incredible. And maybe those are things that you can't share with your family or your group of high school friends. And then there's also that bottom 5% as well that we share in EO that, you know, you might feel like somebody that's working for somebody else that's employed just doesn't know how that feels. And so it is really your safe place where you won't be judged. It's also, everything in EO is confidential, and we'll talk about that when we do our forum exercise later here today. But every time you are with somebody and every time you're in a forum, you'll be reminded about the confidentiality. And it's just, it's all over the globe. I mean, you could talk to somebody in EO and you would say forum confidential, and that means you're sharing something that can't be shared. And also there's no solicitation, which I really love. You don't have to worry that every time you go to an event, you're going to be hit up to purchase somebody's product or use their services. Also, we learn and grow through Gestalt, which Mike mentioned, which is really where we're sharing experiences. We're not giving advice. The person who needs the help is the one who should feel better. And research actually shows that in an advice giving situation, the person who gives the advice is the one who feels better at the end. So we want the person who's in need to feel better. And that's why we share our experiences. There are so many opportunities for personal and professional growth. We'll talk about some of those. I would 100% echo what Mike said about being a part of this organization. Just there are specific opportunities and learning opportunities, but there's just being around these people that has totally changed my life. I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to have a good year and have a lot of money in the bank. And I remember saying to my husband, nobody in my forum would have this much money in the bank. Like that, we need to do something with this money, you know. And again, that's not a problem I could like call my high school friends with. And then also we're a global family of entrepreneurs, and we'll talk more about the global impact of EO and what it means to be connected to people all over the world. Okay, so here's our cornerstones of EO. We have forum, which forum we'll go into a little bit more depth. We have learning events. We have social events, our global and regional events, and then once in a lifetime experiences. We won't go into a lot of once in a lifetime experiences here, but I would do want to share, like Leslie, we didn't get a chance to get Leslie to share, but there was a group of people from EO that just went to see like Northern Lights in these little like igloo huts in Alaska. And it was life-changing for the people that went. I could just look at it on Facebook. So EO does that kind of stuff for its members.
Ginger's been on Richard Branson's private island. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that too. Me and Richard were buddies because of EO. So okay, so forum is probably the thing that you'll hear people talk the most about when they talk about EO. And I think that we sometimes say it like everybody knows what this is, but your forum is a group of individuals that you'll be placed with. 6 to 8 individuals typically. You meet once a month for 4 hours. This is really your tribe. I call mine my wolf pack from the Hangover movie reference, but they're just your people. The people in my forum know my business. They know my values. They know what's important to me. And I exited my company about 4 weeks ago, and before I signed an LOI, I was fortunate enough to have multiple offers, and I texted my forum when it was time to pull the trigger on one of them. And I said, who can hop on a Zoom at lunch tomorrow? And I didn't expect every one of them to, but every single one of them got on a Zoom during their lunch to help me figure out which offer I should take. I mean, that's the kind of like bond we're talking about with these people. As I mentioned, confidentiality is high priority. You don't have to worry about anything you say leaving. Another thing you don't have to worry about is that nobody from your industry would be in your forum. So you can truly share what's important to your business, what's important to your family, and you don't have to worry about one of your competitors being in the room or finding out. As we mentioned a couple of times, we learned through Gestalt. Also, personal responsibility. So what you put in is what you get out. And I'm sure a lot of you preach that to your employees and people that you work with. And also, you own your own experience. So if you need something, you make it happen. Next. Okay, so we talked about learning events as being one of the cornerstones of EO. And so here's some upcoming events that we have. We have some EO exchange events that started out of the pandemic when we were just kind of all head spinning and needed a lot. We started doing the exchange events that were focused in on individual topics. So one that comes to mind for me, because I moderated it, was like, what did we do with our kids when they were all out of school and out of their routine? And so we had a child psychologist come in and help us with navigating that. But you can see we've got, now we're into other stuff that don't have to do with the pandemics, but what's the ramification of your website not being ADA compliant? How do you stay safe from hackers? We have a couples event tomorrow night, right? Is today Tuesday? Yeah, tomorrow night at the Assembly Food Hall. And we've got VIP access to that place, and nobody else is there, right, Samira? It's just us. Yeah, so that'll be fun. We have an EO connectivity event coming up. That's kind of like our version of speed dating. We're fortunate to have a large chapter with a lot of amazing people. So this is a great way to get to meet others and find out what they do. Take a chapter retreat to New Orleans this year. Our chapter retreats usually come with some fun behind the scenes event. EO Talks is coming up at TPAC soon. That's our version of TED Talks. And so EO members will present in like a TED Talk style format. We have customer experience with John DeJulius coming up at the Westin. And then our all member meeting that we do every year is at the new soccer stadium. Here's some past events that we've done. A mayoral press conference. You'd think I know this as many times as we've presented it now. We had dinner on stage at the Opry, and we had our Christmas party a few years ago at the Parthenon, and everybody was dressed in white. You can read some of these other things that we've done as well. Don DePani is one of EO Nashville's favorites. He's a former monk that has come twice and talked to us about mindfulness and being present. And when we brought him back, it was early 2020. And I referred to my notes many times after March of 2020 to help me stay grounded in what we were all going through. Operation EO is when we volunteer, and this is a Second Harvest Food Bake event where EO members and their spouses and families came together to help that organization. We've also had a BMW driving experience. We had Family Feud, which is where we had a house system within EO. Once again, because we are so large, we've divided into houses so that we can just get to know each other a little bit better. And so we had house competition with Family Feud. You can see we also had house competition with dodgeball, kickball, and then Global Leadership Conference, which is here in the middle, is one of, I think, being a part of the board of EO Nashville is when my experience kind of went on steroids. And part of that was going to the Global Leadership Conference because I was really plugged into leaders in EO chapters all over the world. And now I can say that I truly have friends in probably every continent. Okay, but wait, there's more. So many benefits. Here's our current favorites. We have spousal and life partner forums. So just like the entrepreneur needs to get together with other entrepreneurs, we recognize that our spouses and our life partners have their own struggles because they live with us. So we have forums that they have their own forums where they get together and share those struggles. We also have Catalyst, which we'll talk more about later, but Catalyst is kind of an incubator for businesses that are doing 250,000, and it's taught at the Entrepreneur Center by Michael Burcham, who's like a famous Nashville entrepreneur. And as an EO member, you can take that class. Mike and I, it's actually how Mike and I got to know each other in an EO, and it's like drinking water from a fire hose. It is amazing. We have the Health Network, which is best explained by a story, I think, about an EO member whose child was diagnosed with something, and it was going to take them months to get into a specialist here locally, but they plugged into the health network and were in to see a specialist in another city within like 2 or 3 days. And you could take advantage of that for you and your family, but you can also purchase that for your employees. My EO and the matrix of commonality. EO has come up with this incredible way to find our interest and to link us by those interests. So I'm a part of a My EO group where there's a WhatsApp for people that are into like natural health and wellness. Mike put together a My EO skiing trip for EO Nashville. There's tomorrow night, there's a My EO happy hour. Is it tomorrow night? No, it's next week. Sorry. There's so many events. There's a My EO for everybody that lives in the Brentwood, Franklin area that's in EO Nashville. So on my note about saying there's so many events, I want to be careful to point out that, as I mentioned before, you can own your own experience. So there's not pressure to do all of these things, but it is definitely there for you if you want to take advantage of it. Some people are really just go to their forum and they don't do a lot of the outside events. Some people are at every event, and that's okay. You can choose to make your experience your own. I have been through twice in my 7 years in EO. I did what I called a Just Say No EO campaign for a few weeks because the events are so amazing and the people are so amazing that I have FOMO when I can't go. I promise you. So I just had to kind of say, you know what? Like my business needed me, my family really needed me. There just wasn't time. So I was like, I'm not going to anything EO other than my forum for like 2 or 3 weeks. So you own your experience. Okay. We have executive education opportunities. I also have an EO Press Pass, which is a way that you could get published in Forbes or Wall Street Journal. If they want to know what the entrepreneurial community is thinking on a certain subject, they'll send that out to EO, and you may have an opportunity to get some press. We have a Google group, a private Facebook page, and a Slack channel. The Google group is probably one of my favorite benefits, and that we're all on one email. And if you need anything, recently for me, because I sold my business, I wanted different accounting software, and I sent an email out and I said, hey, I don't have a business right now. I just need to keep up with my finances personally better than I did for the last 12 years. And what you got? And within an hour, I had like 5 or 6 people that had shared with me. So you can get a roofer, a babysitter, a dog sitter, the best doctor, whatever it may be. Like you've got almost 300 people in Nashville that can hand over those suggestions for you. We have an EO office at the EC. It's beautiful space. So if you need to get off site with your team, you can go on there and reserve that. We have an EO United page, which is really a catalog of a lot of the stuff we've done over the last year that anybody can access. You could go there after here and see some of the things that we've done. We have a mentorship program. You can be a mentor or you can be mentored within EO. We have a global and regional events voucher. So there's things like, there's EO universities that are all over the world. I am finally getting to go to the Entrepreneurial's Master's Program, which is at MIT. And I say finally, because I was supposed to go in 2020, it kept getting put off, but it's, I think like 70, they picked 70 people from all over the world to go to this. So there's events like that. And then there's global partners. Oh, okay, here we are. So here's EO Global at a glance. So we are in 61 countries. There's 198 EO chapters. 4.1 million people in the world are employed by EO members. The median revenue is 5 million, and we have 14,000 global members. And we are super proud in Nashville to be the #1 chapter, or the largest chapter in North America and the 3rd in the world. And next. Oh, wait, where's EO Nashville at a glance? I'm just really proud of myself because I've memorized it. Here we go. Okay, so here's EO Nashville at a glance. We have 286 members right now. Our average revenue is 12 million. We have 12,000 full-time employees. The average full-time employees is 46, and our average age is 45. Down at the bottom here, you can see all of the different industries that are represented, and what you can take away from that is just that I think pretty much every industry is represented. And next, we're going to talk about our strategic alliance partners, and you'll hear us refer to these as SAPs. And really, to like the outside world, they would say these are our sponsors, but we call them strategic alliance partners because that's really how they function within our organization. So they pay to be a part of EO Nashville. And what that means for us as members is that we get highly vetted industry experts that we have access to. And so, for example, in the early days of the pandemic, our contact at Pinnacle Bank, who's just a favorite of everybody in EO, was so fantastic in helping us all navigate PPP, and Baker Donaldson and Bradley, everybody was helping with that. But a personal story share here is that the banker at Pinnacle was better to me than my Regions banker. And I've been a Regions banker since, a Regions customer since I was a teenager. So I changed to Pinnacle after that because Pinnacle was so good. But you can see some of our other SAPs here. They'll come to your forums and present on topics that are really helpful. We have some in-kind sponsors as well. You can see those here. I'd like to point out and thank Orange Thread because they were so helpful to us during the pandemic when we had to go virtual. We hadn't done virtual events before, and it was seamless. And it was also great because moving forward from there, we offer both for our events now. So one time because of travel, I was going to miss a speaker that I was super excited about. But my family and I flew in and we all just joined from our couch and watched. So it was great. That's a huge benefit for us. Okay, Mike, back to you.
Okay, back to me. So that's EO at a glance. Like Ginger mentioned, you could pretty much be a full-time EOer if you really wanted to dive into everything that there is to offer. Shouldn't even touch on a lot of the global events that are offered. They're constantly having webinars, and there is more to do than you will ever be able to do. And it truly, I echo Ginger. I truly do have FOMO when I miss out on some of the local events because I always get value. And I have never been in a room with EO Nashville members and felt like I had to work to make conversation. There's always more to talk about than I ever have time to. It's really kind of a fun experience. So we don't just let anybody into EO. The basic criteria to be a member is you need to be the founder, co-founder, or controlling shareholder of a company that does $1 million in revenue or more. Beyond that, we want to make sure your culture fit. We kind of have a no assholes policy that I think we've done pretty well at maintaining, because we all want to surround ourselves by people who are just eager to learn and grow. That is the core ethos. Is everybody here wants to learn and grow and is constantly bettering themselves, almost to the point of it being a curse, where we're just always trying to do better and better. That's just the way entrepreneurs are wired, and it makes for a lot of fun and a whole lot of energy. Today is the application deadline. This is the last one of these that Ginger and I are doing. I think you should all have in your email the application steps. If not, Samir and Karen will be getting that to you as soon as we get off the call. I suspect if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over, and we'll stay on as long as we need to on the Zoom over here to talk through those things. Big flashing yellow note on the bottom over there. There are additional criteria other than these for some specific industries: construction, development, real estate, finance, insurance, second generation businesses, and franchisees. So if you're in any of those industries, please raise your hand and ask the question when we're done here about what that additional criteria is, if you don't want to waste anybody's time going through an application with false pretenses about criteria over here. If you don't hit the haven't hit the $1 million mark yet, we have this Catalyst program that Ginger has already mentioned for companies that are at $250,000 and looking to grow to $1 million. She already mentioned it is taught by a fantastic instructor, Michael Burcham. I've been through Catalyst twice now, even as an established entrepreneur, and every time I walk away from one of those classes with half a dozen things I could go do to improve my business, just because you forgot about things. You do something once 10 years ago and you kind of forgot that you had done it, and can go back and say, oh wait, I could do that a whole lot better now. Catalyst is an 18-month program. It's going to be 6 months of classroom instruction with Michael, followed by 12 months of a Catalyst forum. Kind of another personal share story. I've been moderating or mentoring a few Catalyst forums now, and that's actually been one of the best educational experiences I have had in EO. I used to work kind of the training industry, and there's a motto in there: if you want to learn something, simplest way to do is to watch one, do one, and teach one. And getting involved in Catalyst as an EO member has been the opportunity to teach one, and you learn something so much deeper when you have to teach it and explain it to somebody else. So that's actually been a huge benefit for me, both going through the class and going back and helping the companies that are in it. So when I was in your shoes, sitting here at a membership presentation, I was thinking about two things. First is time. Forum meetings are 4 hours a month, and you are expected to attend every one of them. You are expected to be there on time. A lot of forums have a rule: if you're a minute late, it's a $100 fine, or you're buying dinner afterwards. And that's because we are all too busy. Every single one of us is too busy, and we'll always have something come up, always have something important. And if we don't make forum our high priority, where we're not willing to commit to each other, it just doesn't work, because somebody has a sale that's due, a proposal, or this fire to put out. Attendance is mandatory. It is expected. It is 4 hours a month. That sounds like an eternity to you right now. I promise you, in 14 years of being in EO, I have never been in a forum meeting that I didn't wish was more than 4 hours. We'll do a little mock forum here in just a couple minutes, and I think you'll see what I mean. When you start talking about your experiences and sharing as entrepreneurs, you'll find there's so much to talk about and so many tangents you want to go down. We have to actually keep those meetings very structured in order to be able to get through things, because there's often so many rabbit holes to climb down on. So you'll also be expected to go to forum training. Another slide over here, we have the dates for forum training that are coming up. I suggest that you put those in your calendar now if you're thinking about applying that as a full day, where you learn about forum, how to act in forum, and you really get kind of indoctrinated into EO. Forums also go on a retreat once a year for a couple days. Those range, every forum figures that out for themselves. Some people are going to Evans Mill, a couple hours down the road. Other people are going to Costa Rica and Ireland or wherever. So that experience can really range, but you will be expected to kind of take a couple days out and just go immerse yourself with a forum every year. Financially, there is a financial commitment to EO. You can see the numbers on the screen over there. My takeaway on this is I have no idea what those numbers are. I just don't look anymore. For me, EO has been, it's like my continuing education budget. We all train our employees. We have budgets for our employees to train them up, educate them. This is where I educate myself. This is where I go to learn and where I go to grow. And I can promise you, every EO member who has any kind of tenure has at least one, if not a dozen, stories of where EO has paid for itself many times over financially. For me, my story was early on, back at that same stage with the experience I shared earlier, just over $1 million in revenue. I was coming out of my forum meeting, we're going to dinner, and one of my forum mates mentioned that they were going to be doing a customer billing audit the next day. I said, well, what's that? Never heard of a customer billing audit before. And he mentioned that he just goes through and makes sure he's invoiced everybody properly and billed everybody properly. I said, that's a pretty good idea. Maybe I'll go do that. And sometime in the next week or two, I kind of just started taking a quick look at invoices and trying to match them up with contracts, and realized that we had just forgotten to bill $75,000 worth of work. Just hadn't even bothered to send out the bills. That wasn't one invoice. That was like 10 invoices we just forgotten to send out. So sent those out, collected that $75,000, put that system in place then to continually run that audit, make sure we were never not billing customers. And EO is now free for life, just from that one little bit of advice that I got from this one random comment that happens. And quite honestly, some of the best things I've gotten out of EO are just those random comments that you pick up being around other people and hearing about, that lead you off into a topic you didn't even know existed before. So now we're going to take a break from us jibber jabbering at you, and we're going to do a little mock forum exercise. We're going to break off. Samira's got it figured out. I don't know how many people we have on the call, to one or two groups, where we're going to essentially go through what forum is. And remember, whatever we say in here, we're going to ask you to keep that in strict confidence. We're going to be sharing our experiences. So yeah, where'd it go? There it is. So this is what the agenda is going to look like. We're going to start with a quick confidentiality reminder. And then Normally in a forum, we would be picking an issue that is kind of current to a certain member to expedite things over here. Ginger and I are going to pull from our kind of all-time favorites list just for this mock forum, something that's easily relatable and quick to present on over here. So we'll present the issue for a few minutes. Then everybody will have a chance to go around and ask questions, clarifying the topic, diving in a little bit further, trying to understand the situation. We'll then take a minute to just kind of quietly contemplate, think about our experiences that we've had in the past that might be relevant, might be able to help that person. And then we'll take a few minutes each and go around and share our experiences. Your feedback here should take the form of, in my experience, things I have done, not I think you should. We're not giving advice. We're not telling them what to do. We're talking about when we've gone through something similar, what the situation was, how we thought about the problem, what we did, and what the result was. So we'll go around the room and do that. Then the presenter kind of summarizes what they learned. We always end with a confidentiality reminder, and then we'll all circle back.